What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another edition of Renegades Reviews, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I am the Renegade J.J. Williams, and today I'm going to be discussing from 2002, Catch Me If You Can, starring Tom Hanks alongside Leonardo DiCaprio, Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, Amy Adams, Jennifer Garner, Ellen Pompeo, and Elizabeth Banks. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me again today. This is going to be another fun one for me because this is another one of my all-time favorite Tom Hanks films. And it's also one of the very, very few films starring Leonardo DiCaprio that I also enjoy. I've never been the biggest fan of his. Much like I discussed prior when I was talking about Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio for a while was just that heartthrob guy, and it kind of turned me away for a while because I had discovered him back in the late 80s on the sitcom Growing Pains, where he came in for their final season before the show got canceled. But after that, he kind of snowballed into this movie star figure that the girls went crazy for, with roles in Romeo and Juliet, The Titanic, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, And so there was so much hype put into him that I kind of just pushed away. I was like, nah, dude, this guy, he was good in Growing Pains, but he's not all that. So I wasn't a big fan of his for a long time. But there are two films of his that I can honestly say I love. One of them is this one, Catch Me If You Can. The other one, I'm sure I'll get to at some point down the line, Gangs of New York. But we're not here to talk about Gangs of New York today. We're here to talk about Catch Me If You Can. So, the year is 1963, and Frank Abagnale Jr. is your normal 16-year-old. Parents are married. Dad's pretty successful businessman. He's being inducted as a lifetime member into the New Rochelle Rotary Club. Mom's your typical stay-at-home mom, wife, But things started to take a turn when Frank's dad faces problems with the IRS. They're forced to sell their car. They're forced to sell their house, move into a small apartment, just completely downgrade their lives. At this point, Frank's mom begins to have an affair with her husband's best friend. Frank has to go to public school now instead of private school. So, upon entering class his first day, he discovers that his French teacher is absent and supposed to be a substitute. This is where the cons begin for Frank. He impersonates the French teacher, starts giving out homework, even is planning a field trip for the class. Takes him about a week for the school to realize that he's been impersonating the French teacher. Mom goes to file a divorce. Frank comes home from school one day and he's told he has to make a choice. Do you want to live with your mother? Do you want to live with your father? Go take a moment, write down the name of the parents you want to live with. It'll all be said and done. Frank decides to run away. Needing to survive, Frank's cons now start to get bigger and bolder, to the point where now he starts to impersonate a Pan Am pilot, forging checks totaling up to millions of dollars. As a result of the forgery, now the FBI is in on it. They get wind of the case. Agent Carl Hanratty gets assigned to try and take him down. While he follows Frank's paper trail, he ends up coming upon a hotel that Frank had been staying at, discovers he's still there. Goes up to try to apprehend him, but Frank is able to use his skills, con Carl, make him feel that he's Barry Allen, Secret Service. As anybody who has even an entry level of comic book knowledge knows, Barry Allen is the alter ego of the Flash. But Carl doesn't know this because he's not a kid. He doesn't read comic books. So Frank hustles his way out of the encounter, escapes. Eventually, Carl realizes he was fooled when he opens Frank's wallet, assuming that there was a badge inside and credentials, and finds all of the labels from the items in the hotel room peeled off and in there. Peeling off labels of soda bottles and peanut butter, etc. At this point, now Frank starts to transition his con. He becomes a doctor at this point at a local hospital. Graveyard shift. He ends up meeting a nurse there named Brenda. And Brenda and Frank begin to fall in love. When he goes to meet her family, everything seems too good to be true. You know, he's a doctor. He went to the dad's alma mater of Berkeley. He's a Lutheran, apparently. All of these lies just piled up on top of each other. Drops the bombshell that he decides he wants to get back into law. Another part of his con. The dad is a lawyer. So he helps him get ready to take the test and pass the bar there in Louisiana. Asks her dad for permission to marry her. Obviously, he's going to give it. I mean, Frank is basically portraying the spitting image of a younger version of himself. So the hustle continues. Passes the bar in Louisiana. Honestly, this is the only part of his con that he does honestly. He studies and he passes the test. So Carl keeps trying to get him to crack on it. How did you pass the bar? I can figure out how you hustled your way through all these other things, but how did you pass the bar? He studied. He admits it later on in the film. Carl's able to track Frank down to his engagement party. Just when he thinks he's going to get apprehended, he escapes through the window. When Frank shows up at the airport a couple days later to meet Brenda like they were supposed to when they were supposed to rendezvous there, Frank spots a bunch of agents undercover. Way too heavy of a presence. So he figures that Brenda snitched him out. Keeps on driving. They never know he was there. At this point, he flips his con again. He goes back to being a Pan Am pilot. Goes to some universities and holds a phony recruiting drive for stewardesses. For future flight attendants of America, I think he calls it. Brings 8 girls with him to the airport to kind of form an entourage around him so he can blow right past all the security that's there trying to arrest him. Ends up escaping to Spain. He hops around from European country to European country, making more checks, more forgeries. Carl eventually catches up to Frank in Montrachad, France. Montrachad is important because that is the village that Frank's mom is from. Earlier in the film, we're told about how Frank's dad met her. He was serving in the war, came upon this little village in France, Montrachad, met Frank's mom. They instantly fell in love. He said he was not going to leave without her. He didn't. The two were inseparable up until the divorce. So Carl catches him in that small village. Arrested, thrown into a French prison. 2 years later, Carl is able to get him extradited back into the U.S. And before him and Carl can touch down on U.S. soil, Carl has to break the news to him that his father has passed. Carl had promised Frank that when he got home, he could call him, see him, but he's been holding the secret inside all this time. Frank's dad is dead. Frank just loses it. He starts to flip out. He starts to feel sick. They take him to the bathroom. Having hot-shotted around the globe on planes before, Frank is able to escape. Runs off to the house where his mom lives with her new husband. And he looks through the window and he sees a little girl. And he starts interacting with her, talking to her. He asks her, "Where's your mommy?" And she turns and points at Frank's mom. So at this point, now he realizes he has a little sister, stepsister. He realizes his mom has completely moved on with her life. Like, he's probably not even a thought anymore to her because she's got a new husband, a new kid. He's the kid with the ex-husband that she's moved on from now. The police roll up at her house. He surrenders. They sentence him to 12 years in a maximum security prison. Now, over all this time, as weird as it may sound, Carl and Frank have built a bond up. So Carl, from time to time, will go to the prison and pay a visit to Frank. On one such visit, Carl comes with a check from his new case. Starts telling Frank about the case, shows him the check. And Frank has the suspicion that it's an inside job. Shows Carl all the ways that he feels that it is. Carl's able to catch the person. So Carl persuades his bosses at the FBI to allow Frank to serve the remainder of his sentence under Carl's supervision, under Carl's care, working for the FBI. Because who better to help catch some of these guys than the guy who ran this con for all those years? But Frank feels claustrophobic. The redundancy of the day-to-day life of a working man, he feels too constricted. So one weekend, Frank decides to resume his con and go on a flight somewhere dressed as a pilot. Carl follows him, but he doesn't stop him. He tells Frank he's going to let him fly because I know you're going to come back. And Frank's like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "Look around. Nobody's chasing you." So Frank goes, he flies, takes off for the weekend. Monday morning comes, he's not at his desk. The day continues to go by. Frank's not there. Carl even holds a briefing on the new unsub. The door opens and we think it's Frank, but it's somebody else that's there. Eventually, as the day gets later, Frank does show up. Carl's at a desk looking over a check for his new case. Frank walks up, asks if he can take a look at it. Everybody else that was kind of gathered around the desk scatters, and Frank and Carl begin talking about their next case. The epilogue, during the end credits, they tell us that Frank has been married now for 26 years, has 3 kids, that him and Carl are still friends, and he's now a millionaire because he designs secure checks for banks and big Fortune 500 companies to use so that this type of check fraud that he committed all those years can't be committed. The irony of it all. That the man who hustled millions of dollars from these companies now designs checks to prevent other people from doing it. Like I said in the beginning, this is one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies. It's one of my few favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies. Catch Me If You Can, I give 5 stars out of 5. I just love this movie to pieces. And it's one of those that I can put on. If I'm channel hopping and I see that it's on, I'll stop, put the controller down, keep watching it. If I just get bored and want to throw on a movie and I'm not feeling the superhero stuff at that moment, because that's usually what I go to for my background movies, I'm not going to front. This is a movie I'll throw on because it's just that darn good. And from the moment it starts, it just hooks you. But yeah, I got to give it 5 stars for this particular Tom Hanks film. What do you guys think of Catch Me If You Can? Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. As always, I will get back to you and respond. Let's get those hashtags trending out on social media. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.J. Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Don't forget to do what the commercial just told you. Get out there, support the Casa D18 Brethren, teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network. Get yourself your Renegade J.J. Williams shirt. Get yourself your Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt. Get yourself your Statboy Sports Bar or hashtag Statboy Approved shirt. Get the official shirt of the Jeff Meacham Network, your Meachamania shirt, or any of the other products that you can find up there on teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network. The month is almost over. Next month, we have Chick Flicks / Black History Month that we're going to be featuring here on the network. Let's go ahead and take a quick pause. check out what's in store for February right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. As you can see, lots of diversity there. Like I said prior, we have chick flicks, we have Black History Month. We're going to be talking about everything from beaches to Roots to Pretty Woman to Ali and everything in between. There's just going to be so much good content next month. I hope you guys will continue to join me every day and check out Renegades Reviews. Until tomorrow, here on the show, when I will be talking about Tom Hanks's second Oscar win for Best Actor, Forrest Gump, which will be not only featured on the Casa D18 Studios channel, as always, but will also be featured on the Jeff Meacham Network. So make sure you join me for that. So until tomorrow on Renegades Reviews, I am the Renegade JJ Williams. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.